everybody. So, back way sooner for a talk on our second episode from season 2, Magna Breather. This one, well, let's just point out the fact that it hasn't been a week since the last video, and I've been able to watch this episode multiple times since then to go into things a lot further. So, I think that's evidence there that this one is way easier for me to watch than the previous episode. It's kind of one that I'm neutral on. It is fun. Is it one I would be like, guys, we need to watch this episode in particular? Not so much, though at the same time, with some of the episodes in this season, like it would have very stiff competition for that. But this is an episode that seems to be main focus on trying to teach learning lessons to a younger audience. Is that bad? No, this is a really good thing. And like if I had kids, I'm like, this would be a good episode for them to watch. At the same time, for me, like I wonder if me watching this is similar to back when I was a little kid and I like would have my mom watch Dragon Tales over and over and over again when I was 3. That reminds me. I wonder what happened to Dragon Tales. I want to watch it again now. But I have a lot of stuff in this a lot of stuff to work on watching this first before I go watching Dragon Tales. Don't worry. But let's get on from that. So, in this episode, we actually kind of go on 2 stories here. We go on a story with these 3, which we haven't really done much with these 3 in a group before. Like, we've had interactions between Tom and Mom, of course, but not really adventures. Sledkin is one that was just barely introduced at the end of last episode, or not last episode, but the last episode of season 1. And I will say, I really enjoyed this plotline. It was cool. There were definitely some things where you can tell that the main focus of the director for this episode was teaching lessons, not on tension, not on story beats. But at the same time, even so, it was really cool. And honestly, I would like, there were so many things mentioned in this episode where, like, one of the things that I think a lot of people pointed out the fact that this series tries to cover a lot of things, but at the same time, they don't really cover a lot in like such short seasons. So the seasons are pretty nicely, like, they're not too far apart. Like, back when I was watching Sherlock and had to wait how many years for the next 3 episodes. But at the same time, I really would like, honestly, I kind of wish that we had a backstory season just about these guys and what in the world like caused all these dynamics going on. We will go into that later. But this has all started off with the fact that Tom realized that his mom was going to go visit one of the caves. She's going to visit the cave in Sector 9. But unfortunately, Sludkin decided to overrule that, and she was going to go check the discovery for the cave, which then meant that Olivia decided to go and explore Sector 2 instead, which is the opening for the hidden world. We don't want her to find that, you know? I will say that I'm assuming that her actually going into the cave instead of just sending a drone to explore and map like she did with Sector 9 is the fact that she was all geared up and set on going to see Cave 9, and Slugkin said no, so she's just kind of, well, I'm gonna go see the cave, so she's gonna go in person to Cave 2. But that is nice because this helps us be able to know about and put precautions into place to help her not find the dragon cave, you know? So this is good. It's just like, okay. But because of that, we now have our side story with these three, who are now trying to block off the cave with and Tom trying to stall his mom. Now, like, we have the thing that D'Angelo's dad is a military commander, so he immediately assumes leadership role against everyone else's consent or wishes, and he's having issues with the whole, like, he sees his dad, he's a very firm and respected leader, he's a very confident leader, and very well versed on what it means to be a leader. D'Angelo, none of these things really, and his troops, as he would call them, did not enlist. He just kind of enlisted them against their wishes, and you can kind of see their reactions there, their feelings about that. While he's also a very inexperienced leader and kind of struggling. So this definitely causes tensions in the group, especially since he tries to be focused more on the fact on establishing himself as a good leader, which he still needs to do the things to become a leader first, instead of actually doing the job, which is blocking the hole to the cave. So Olivia does not find it. So that's what we have with our two diverging subplots here. We very quickly go back to these two. Like, oh my goodness. There's so, like, I love the subplot and seeing these two interact with each other. I love the trusting dynamic with the mom and how patient she is about the fact that Tom seems to have a hard time opening up to and trusting anyone. And with his background and what happened to him in his childhood, there are reasons why he would be that way. Especially, like, yeah, he wants to trust his mom, but he doesn't want to harm the dragons. But she is, instead of being mad at him about it, she is showing trust and showing appreciation for what he does give, to try to show that he's safe to give more. And so many people forget that. And that's like, in the flip side with D'Angelo, he was showing that, okay, to get what you want, you yell at the people more, and you saw that you would get the opposite from people that way. So I really like that mirroring there, and going to this more trusting and more mature outlook helps create better teams. But it was so fun. Like, they kept on referencing so many things in the past. And did you remembering exploring half the world and exploring with just the pick and stuff? I want to see that now. I want to see their adventures, and like Tom growing up and exploring these things with his mom. Like, there was a moment where he dropped his gun, or not gun, but like the scanner, the geological tool they were using, and he got lasers in his eyes, and we had him reacting. I was going to talk about the fact that we did not have any reaction to thunder with the laser going in his eyes, but checking again really slowly, the laser went just underneath his eyes, so thunder would not be reacting. So this is something that I would have complained about, but it's not valid if you look closely enough. So there's good. We had a really good balance of, his mom really likes her job, really likes exploring with her son, like spending time with her son and all this stuff. At the same time, concerned about his safety, but keeping her cool in stressful situations. At the same time, there were times where, like, she seems to go silent more in stressful situations, where Tom is like Like it'll take her a few moments while Tom will be faster at, okay, this is what we need to do. Though at the same time, this is theorized to be a difference between the female and male brain. Obviously, it's not 100%, but it was very interesting seeing them interact together. I will say that with this, it's like we had so much geology terms, and I did take a few geology courses in my getting my natural science degree. There are a lot of things that I really wished I knew what their geological instrument can do, because the way that they did things was way different than how I was taught to do things in geology class. But at the same time, maybe these world exploring, renowned, top of the line scientists maybe know how to do things a little better than person who took 2 classes in college can do, you know? Um so yeah. I will say that they mentioned so many cool rocks without, though at the same time, like they kept on showing them, like we've got quartz, we've got calcite. I've got like a piece of calcite. It is gorgeous. Like they even say like, oh, calcite is pretty, but it's not worth much. Yeah, it's not worth much, but they just showed like something like limestone or basalt. Like there's magnetite. True, that is dark gray, but at the same time it's a very distinctive thing. I will say that we had some things which I thought looked like bismuth. But I'm sorry, I can talk way too much. I should probably discuss geology in a separate video. I wish that they showed the rocks better, and if they would have showed the different properties of these rocks, because both calcite and magnetite have really cool qualities that could really come into play with dragons around. But they did not. But they did find this rock that they believe might be phosphorus. What the tongue tied word quartz, which yeah, like phosphorescence is like is similar to bioluminescence. Like there could be that could be how glowing happens, and quartz is very high silicon. Um, so that would be a good crystal. Quartz is usually in a different shape than this. This looks more like a garnet, but garnets are usually red. But aside from that, okay, I'm talking way too much about the geology here. Okay, let's just skip the geology. The geology is more or less plausible. I wish they did portrayed the rocks better, but it's plausible. But for this to be plausible, everything they said to be plausible, there'd be insane things going on with the geology in this location, which kind of makes sense. But yeah, at this point, Sudkin notices that comes because she knows Tom was there. Oh, backtrack. Like she went to the cave, wrote off what Olivia saw as just there were cracks, not cracks filled with gold in the quartz. But then they start freaking out about the fact that Olivia's still there and whether or not she found something. Like, like maybe they're just surprised that she went into the cave because she usually doesn't go into the cave. It would take way longer for someone to map out a cave than to just go in and find the quartz and turn around. So maybe this is, I feel like they're jumping the gun, but maybe this is just them reacting to the fact that they did not expect her to go to the cave in person, which kind of fuels the whole she didn't have to go to the cave, she just wanted to because she was set on going to the cave. But yeah, Sledkin comes and that gets rid of any idea that Tom tells his mom about the dragons and makes it more important that we have to stop the hole, which isn't happening because D'Angelo's trying to leadership. Sorry. We do not, there we go. We finally get to see Plowhorn. finally Plowhorn. Like this was something I really liked. Like I like the fact that the dragons have more of a say and have more of like they're more of characters and plot relevant characters in the story than just being dragons. Like Plowhorn finally gets sick of D'Angelo and decides to show them her way of solving the problem, which is this dragon. I really need to spend more time thinking about this dragon. This keeps on giving me Hobgobbler Gronkle vibes. I'm gonna have to check both of them to try to figure out what to do. But yeah, people try to deal with the dragon. We get lots of examples of how not to convince somebody to do what you want to do. I did really like the fact that they called it a big beautiful dragon, because everything is beautiful in their own right. I loved it. Like even though they didn't like the fact that it was spitting up lava everywhere, like it's a big beautiful dragon. I really enjoyed that outlook. And yeah, they ended up like decided to be a good reason to go. Oh, what was it that Alex said? Let's follow a um, motivationally dubious dragon into the scary cave, and we ended up finding this dragon. And it tries to eat D'Angelo, and it is great because it helps us break the cave or block off the cave. Like I did think that like this was a good lesson for D'Angelo and hopefully for the children watching. This is really good. It was a little bit like yeah, I was watching a show to teach younger audience why it's bad to come and yell at people's faces and about some basic leadership, which is very good because I know way too many adults who don't understand this already. Who knows? Maybe I need to learn this more too. I hope I've already had this down. At the same time, this is definitely something. This wasn't too jarring for me to watch, and this was something I would love it if I had kids and they were to be and they liked watching this because hopefully they could get these lessons from it. Um, yeah. One thing like people ask, like D'Angelo asked if this thing has an off switch. I kind of wonder that too because it just like completely this dragon had enough magma in it to block off a cave entrance bigger than it and then flow through an entire cavern to make a giant chase scene where lava was falling into a cavern. I'm like, this is like the whipped cream can. Like does he have like aerosolized magma going on? I guess if that was what's going on, this is why it's like constantly spilling out of its mouth, I guess. I'm just like I'm gonna have to look like is there aerosolized stuff stuff going on? Also, like true, they call it magma breather. Like magma is the molten rock from underneath the earth's surface. And then when it goes out of the earth's surface, it's lava. So I guess is all the like like all the magma stuff and volcanic activity, even if it's in a like, is it still all magma because we're in a fissure? I never really thought about that before. I'm gonna have to look it up. But yeah, that dragon sealed up the thing in a way that scared everyone away, which then leads us to some very interesting things back with our trio. One of them, like, okay, the lava is flooding out. Like, yeah, all of this lava plus a lot more came out of a tiny dragon in comparison. And we have an interesting thing where, like, we we kind of have it well set up that Olivia and Tom hate Sledkin, but when Sledkin tripped and was going to get got by the lava, Olivia seemed very concerned. with going and saving her, and they're like working together to get out. Tom, at that point, Tom was able to go start clearing the way with Thunder. Part of me is like, okay, are the two adults just stressed, not realizing that the stalactites are not the same, stalactites, stalagmites, both of them are not in the same configuration as when they came in? Like, yeah, they are running from lava. I do think that that was a bit risky for Tom to have done. But once they get to safety and past the fissure, or the mini fissure thing where the lava came down, we go back into this interesting thing. Like, those two are happy about day well done, well saved. Well, Sludkin looks very suspicious and says that mysterious things only, that chaos always happens when those two are around, in kind of a grumpy fashion. And once again, I really want to see this backstory. I want to see an Olivia and Tom and Sludkin in this series. Like, I keep on wondering, like, are Olivia and Sludkin half sisters? Is Sludkin a former sister-in-law? Were these two like college roommates or class rivals? Were they both rivals when they were starting their career? And maybe the fact that Sludkin is more an administrative role as opposed to an explorative role, and is so much chomping at the bit trying to take the field time, is maybe the fact that Olivia got more press because of all the crazy stuff that happened around her, which Olivia could find unfair, and possibly the fact that Olivia may have been orchestrating it. So people would have paid more attention to her, and so more press release, more excitement. People may have been more willing to ask Olivia to go on an exploration, since we know that she can handle tough circumstances, and also they would have seen her name in the press more, and Sludkin may feel robbed for that. So this might, like, I maybe this is just the way Sludkin has always been. Like, I really want to know, like, guys, what does the fox say? Like, there's so much here, so much obvious backstory. I want to know it. But yeah, like, we have that going on. It's like Olivia was able to hide the stone that they found, the crystal that they found, so Sludkin does not know about it. Sludkin does say that Drake Corp owns everything down to the Earth's core. I'm like, part of me is like, I'm curious now. I need to look up land laws. Do you own everything beneath your house? I don't think you do, because like, if I found a dinosaur bone, if it was like leaf and fish and snail fossils are okay to pick up, but if I found like a dinosaur bone or a mammoth bone in my backyard, I would not be allowed to own it. I would have to call and like have like a government agency or government funded college come and dig it up. Like, I'm not allowed to just go and dig up dinosaur bones without licenses, you know? So I'm kind of, at the same time, this is definitely a different thing going on than me. But I'm just like, I need to look into things. But it's like, yeah, I'm excited to be focusing more on the dragons. At the same time, like, there are definitely things going on with Icarus that I want to know more about. And also, like, before Icarus, like, honestly, like, yeah, I really want to know about these three and what their backstory is and why they are, how and why they are, you know? Yeah. It's like, as a person, I don't like Sludkin. She is very much intriguing. But yeah, going back to the crystal, we come back and we've got terrible terrors. They look slightly different from the terrible terrors we know, but once again, we finally have another dragon other than Thunder, who is recognizable from the How to Train Your Dragon series. I really enjoyed that. Like they have definitely slightly shaped heads and a few other things, but I'm gonna call these terrible terrors. And we see them blowing fire on these crystals and laying on them. Like having like owning being a person who owns a lizard, like my lizard really like I need to have a really hot light bulb that mm, blasts onto a basking spot, and he loves that basking spot. And we did see in the first like How to Train Your Dragon 1 a terrible terror blasting fire onto basalt rock and then curling up on it for warmth. I'm wondering if these crystals have like special heat retaining properties to both like not radiate out too much, so like they can blast fire as much as they want, because like that's pretty good stream, and not have to worry about being burned, because lizards, they don't feel heat. Like they sit on rocks for warmth, but they don't feel heat as much on their bellies, so you have to be very careful about not letting them burn themselves, regulating heat so they don't burn themselves on their basking spot. So maybe this rock is this crystal is perfect for keeping heat and only letting out just enough that it is the perfect temperature for these dragons and doesn't risk burning them, which would be really cool. Once again, that doesn't explain why it glows, because like yeah, they're blowing dragon fire on it, but the rock in the key was glowing without access to dragon fire. So there's obviously way more to this crystal than just heat retaining properties. I am like, okay, am I missing some like reference to this crystal in somewhere else? I'm curious about this crystal, and obviously like they're bringing attention to this. I feel like this is a good dragon basking spot, but it's obviously way more than that. So I'm like, okay, is there something important that I'm just blanking out on? But yeah. But at the end of the day, D'Angelo learned a really good lesson about be a team worker first, leader second, and yeah, don't bully other people to be a leader. Tom and his mom had a really good adventure and had some really good bonding time and shows of trust. And the fact that Tom, like, she says that she knows him, that she's used to him hiding secrets from her. So, like, he does have trust issues even with his mom. Though this is definitely a way bigger one than usual. And some very interesting interactions between them and Sledkin. Some interesting stuff. Like, I would probably give this episode a 5 out of 10. Way better than Unicon, which really depends whether or not I'm willing to go into um, percentages of points, whether or not I do 1 or 0.5 out of 10. But I'm like, this is a pretty good one. And if there were children around, this would be a way better episode, because it's got some really good learning things to do. I will say, like there were some scenes with Tom and his mom that I really wish we had the same like focus on driving in the tension and the beats as in the last episode, Follow the Lightning, because oh my goodness, we could really drive it home. But at the same time, we're trying to teach kids lessons about trust and leadership here. We're not trying to get things really amped up or stressed. So like it could have been, but that was not the. This does not appear to be the. That did not appear to be the purpose of this episode. But I will say that this is a pretty. This is a. This is a valid episode. We have some interesting things to think about. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to work on trying to do geologic mapping of this fissure for a later date. I could talk way too much about rocks and what these rocks should have been looking like. But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe if you want to hear more ramblings about this show. And hope you have a good day. Bye.